dropping into a new week on The World from A to Z. This story isn't just about a world record or a pair of them, but about how athletic feats can be conquered well beyond our teens and 20s and 30s. Well, just watch. From the height of a 22-story building, almost 230 feet above the ground, Brazilian skateboarder Sandro Dias took on what's known locally as the ultimate skate ramp last week. He stayed up the whole way down, setting not only the Guinness World Record for the tallest drop-in, but also the one for fastest skateboard speed on a temporary quarter pipe. That top speed was over 64 miles per hour. Diaz is no stranger to vert ramps. He's been winning championships in that category since 2003, but he's been on wheels since the mid-1980s, a 50-year-old skater who's still making international sports headlines and who described this experience as very, very crazy. Hi, I'm Azuz for The World from A to Z. Forecasters in the U.S. and Caribbean are keeping a close watch on two storms at sea. First one in focus is Hurricane Humberto. It's an exceedingly powerful storm currently spinning in the western Atlantic. At one point over the weekend, Humberto was a Category 5 monster, the strongest classification on the Saffir-Simpson scale of hurricane wind speeds. But as we produced this show, it had dropped in strength to Category 4 status with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. Humberto is not expected to make direct landfall anywhere. It's predicted to pass about 100 miles west of Bermuda on Tuesday and Wednesday, bringing tropical storm force conditions to the British territory. Meteorologists also warn of powerful waves and rip currents all along the U.S. East Coast before Humberto likely curves northeast and heads out to sea. It's not the only system in the region. Tropical storm Imelda formed yesterday near the Bahamas. It's expected to strengthen over the warm waters of the area and reach hurricane status tonight or tomorrow, putting Americans on alert, especially in the Carolinas. Forecasters believe Imelda will approach those states before turning east and moving away from land. In fact, they think Hurricane Humberto's winds could have an effect on Imelda, pulling the smaller storm out to sea. But you're hearing me use words like expect, predict, believe, and could because these forecasts are based on computer models that are subject to change. If Humberto and Imelda interact with each other somehow, it becomes very difficult for experts to project what they're going to do. Meanwhile, this weekend marked the one-year anniversary of when Hurricane Helene struck the U.S. Southeast. It impacted 6 states, and combined with excessive rain that came before it in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina, Helene caused a disaster that homes and businesses are still recovering from.
Recovery is far from over in hard-hit Swannanoa, just outside Asheville, with many families still struggling in mountain country.
A year later, what is the need here in this community?
The need is vast. We still have people that are in temporary shelter, and many people lost their jobs. Businesses were gone. They kind of went through.
Amy Cantrell and Pancho Bermejo tell me there's a full-blown housing crisis, with tens of thousands of people still displaced. Beloved Asheville is among the nonprofits racing to close that gap, building 120 homes and counting. From the heart of Biltmore Village in Asheville,
how do we fix this?
Joe Scully
Was the wall
has been documenting the tireless comeback story of Corner Kitchen. 10 months, more than 300 days through the seasons. Until this moment.
Open after 10 months closed.
The hometown restaurant, now a welcome home back.
And then when we actually started to get people in, it was actually a little scary.
Yeah, you got the jitters?
A little.
This fall, the stakes are higher than ever as visitors pour into high country to take in the changing foliage. In western North Carolina, the next few months could make or break a small business.
It's a possible reality that people will not be able to make it if they don't have the guests and the tourists to come for this next 3-month period.
The Corner Kitchen, back from the brink and buzzing with sound. And this stark reminder of just how high the floodwaters climbed.
Why rebuild in a place that's flooded before?
It's too precious not to try.
On this date in world history. In 1918, Bulgaria signed an armistice with the Allied powers, ending its involvement in World War I. The strategically located country had joined the war on the side of Germany and the Central Powers in 1915. Also on September 29, 1918, an Allied attack broke through the Hindenburg Line, a German defensive barrier on the Western Front in France. The improvised line of thick concrete boxes armed with machine guns had resisted attacks for more than a year and a half. Meanwhile, Germany's Supreme Army Command told the country's leaders to start negotiations for an armistice to end the war. That armistice would be signed 6 weeks later. On September 29, 1988 in Florida, NASA's Discovery launched in the first space shuttle mission since the Challenger exploded in 1986, killing all 7 people on board. The U.S. government had spent more than 2 years investigating and fixing problems that caused the Challenger disaster before sending Discovery's 5-man crew on a successful 4-day mission.
Word of knowledge. Which of these elements is named for a word that means metal from Cyprus? Aluminum, iron, calcium, copper. This element's atomic symbol is Cu for the cuprum mined on Cyprus. Its name is copper.
Mountains of tangled electrical and telephone cables piled up at a recycling site in France. Miles of the stuff yanked out of buildings set to be demolished, but there's treasure lurking here.
This cable here, there's copper inside. There is a sheath around it, and there are small sheaths inside.
This is what's called an urban mine.
Which means that we will look for wealth where it has already been used in order to apply the principle of a circular economy. So the aim is always to recover almost 100% of the material, copper or aluminum, and to recycle the plastics that result from this operation.
It's a noisy shake, rattle, and roll process. Cables are cut, crushed, and reduced down to smaller and smaller particles, in this case to recover as much copper as possible. Here, they're using vibration on an inclined surface to separate the lighter plastic, on the left, from the heavier copper. And any dust that comes loose is sucked up into the hood above. The resulting recycled copper is apparently almost as pure as if it had been extracted from a real mine. Demand for copper is exploding worldwide, largely driven by its ability to conduct electricity. It's used in things like electricity grids, batteries, electric vehicles, and renewable energies. But there's not enough virgin copper, what's mined directly from the earth, to keep up with global demand. And that's driving the copper price up. In 20 years, it has risen from around $2,000 per ton to over $9,000. Recycling copper will help to meet demand, but most of these little pellets have to be exported out of France to complete the recycling process. China leads the world in global metal production, home to between 35 and 70% of global metal refining. France is looking to reduce its dependency on China and sees a need for greater investment in metal mining and recycling.
Hey! Did you know on the last page of the Constitution, you'll find the signatures of 2 future presidents? To learn more about the presidents, check out periodicpresidents.com.
The Palmetto State is where we're starting this week's school shoutouts. Goose Creek is in South Carolina. That's where we heard from Mr. Farmer's class watching from Merrington Middle School of the Arts. South Middle School is in Nampa, Idaho. It's the home of the Hawks, flying high in Mrs. Beeson's class. Great to see you. And while I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing your name, Mr. Amacher, I'm pretty confident your school's is Faribault High. Hello to the Falcons in Faribault, Minnesota. Well, we started this show with a record made on 4 wheels. We're wrapping with one made on 4 limbs. A 22-year-old Japanese athlete named Ryusei Yoni, who's been doing this for years while watching how animals run, he wanted to be the fastest person on all 4s. For his time running the 100 meters, you might be thinking maybe 6, 7, but no, Yoni went the distance in just over 14.5 seconds, which was more than a second faster than the previous record set in 2022. Makes sense he'd have strong quads. I mean, he was fast out of the gate, deserving a hand for his feat by completing a leg of that feat by more than an arm's length that tracks with putting your best foot forward to land and getting handed a victory that thankfully didn't cost him an arm and a leg. I'm Carl Azuz, and we gotta run, but we hope you'll be back in the race with us tomorrow on The World from A to Z.